Earlier this month, I helped launch a new national campaign to end the fix of the big six energy companies who are holding us to ransom over skyrocketing energy bills. In the first 6 months of last year alone, those big six energy companies made around £3.5 billion of profit. And just yesterday, Centrica reported that despite balmier weather, it had still been able to make a profit of around £50 per household from British Gas. Now, at a time when nearly 6 million households in this country suffer the scourge of fuel poverty, Conference, that is grotesque. And that is why I say to the government, impose a levy on the big six, with the funds raised ring-fenced to help address fuel poverty. Give the regulator new powers to cap prices and eliminate excess profits, and launch an independent public inquiry so we can find the best way to create an energy market that puts people before profit. In Brighton and Hove, we have a council that is committed to putting people first. It's hard to think of a worse set of circumstances to see the first ever Green administration having to bring forward its first budget with Eric Pickles, that champion of localism, dictating all of the terms and the opposition parties joining forces locally to attack us. Hard to think of a worse sight than that of the local Labour Party. The Labour Party, putting aside all principles, working with the Conservatives to impose a new round of Conservative spending cuts on a city which in May rejected a Conservative administration. Now, I can understand why for Labour the sight of a Green Council standing up to the Tories is an uncomfortable sight. The sight of a party sticking to its principles even when the going gets tough, it's a bit of a novelty in politics today. But surely even that is no excuse for Blue Labour to work with the Tories to undermine Green attempts to protect the most vulnerable in our city. And Conference, I'm proud of the way our Green councillors went about it. First of all, the Green administration talked to local people and listened to them. The biggest consultation on any budget in Brighton and Hove's history. And a real consultation, not just some PR exercise. And that meant they could act on what people said and adapt their plans to make the budget better. Second, they went after whatever waste they could find, consolidating council buildings, for example, and making sure they're energy efficient, achieving carbon as well as financial savings. And third, they rejected the idea of freezing the council tax, and so having to make yet further cuts not just in spending, but in services too. Green councillors had confidence in their case, and look what's happened since they took that stand. Another 29 councils up and down the country have followed their lead and rejected the Pickles bribe. And some of them, oddly enough, are Labour councils like Darlington and Nottingham. Others are Tory-controlled, old left bastions like Surrey or Cambridgeshire and West Devon. So their confidence means hundreds of thousands of people living in places where we don't even have a Green councillor will be better protected too. Now we must take that confidence into the local elections, tell people about what we've done for other communities and how we'd help them. Not be distracted by the lies of the other parties, but keep on with our message that you can look after people, even in hard times. We should be confident in the London elections too. London was the first city where the Greens showed what a difference we could make on everything from tackling pollution to promoting the living wage. Now, London is a city that needs change at the top. Boris and Ken are like a 1970s double act, cannon and ball or little and large. Each of them playing to the galleries, jokes and quips, photo opportunities and empty promises. What we need, what London needs, is a mayor with vision and an assembly ready to hold that mayor to account and to represent each and every Londoner. And only the Greens can do that. And we will. In May, Jenny Jones is standing for mayor on a manifesto which offers a radical green vision for the city. And across the capital, the Greens will field candidates in all 25 seats. And thanks to years of solid campaigning, we can feel confident of increasing our share of the vote on the Assembly and increasing our Assembly members too. So while Boris and Ken bicker between themselves, the Greens in London have shown that we understand people's everyday concerns. We have the solutions, we have a vision, and we have Jenny Jones too for mayor. It's the same on the economy. You know, for years we've been patted on the head and told that we Greens don't really understand high finance, that our ideas for a more stable and sustainable economy that puts people, not growth, at the heart of what we do is just idealistic. How we should go away and leave it to the professionals. Well, the result? Losses so enormous that the figures seem to lose all meaning, except when it comes to the effect on people's pensions and savings. The truth is the bankers and the speculators have built a global financial machine they cannot control, that they don't even understand. Those trustworthy professionals have turned out to be Flash Del Boys and dodgy Arthur Dailies without the charm. But we are consistently showing how we would do things differently. When the Bank of England announced yet another £1 billion injection of quantitative easing into our limping economy, we called for this to go straight into creating jobs in labour-intensive green industries, to go into the real economy, not just to the banks who then stand back and refuse to lend. And of course, this isn't a time for saying, we told you so. But it is a time for being sure of ourselves, confident in our values and our policies, confident that in the Green New Deal and in steady-state economics, we have the right policies to get our country out of recession, to get people back to work, and crucially to address the mounting environmental crisis we face as well. Now, we've already seen how joining the coalition has torn the Liberal Democratic Party from its roots. Instead of a possible ally in resisting the worst of the Tory plans, we have Lib Dems acting as apologists and cheerleaders. And you know, that makes the betrayal by the Labour leadership of its values, its traditions and its supporters all the more shocking. Ed Miliband, questioning people's right to strike. Yvette Cooper trying to outdo the Daily Mail in her attacks on human rights. And then there's Ed Balls heroically waving a white flag and giving up any attempt to even try to set out an alternative economic agenda. You know, his embrace of the Tory-led coalition's definition of economic credibility as meaning ever more fiscal austerity, and his jaw-dropping statement that we are going to have to keep all of these cuts, calls into question the very purpose of the Labour Party. So, instead of trying to outcompete the government in some kind of masochistic virility test to see who can threaten the greatest austerity, an opposition party worthy of the name would be making a far stronger case that austerity isn't working and offering a genuine alternative. And conference, that opposition worthy of the name is the Green Party, standing up for more progressive taxation, a crackdown on tax evasion and avoidance, and crucially delivering investment directly into the new jobs and infrastructure that the UK urgently needs. And so my message for Miliband and Balls is this, that after the Lib Dem capitulation, the very last thing this country needs is a third Conservative party. Well, let's take the environment. We know that climate change is the greatest threat we face to our prosperity. And we reject the idea that we somehow have to choose between the economy and the environment. We are confident we can offer something much better. Now, of course, the economy is currently top of most people's concerns. But as a nation with the political will, we can share out wealth more fairly. We can prioritise well-being above growth. We can reverse the harm done to the NHS and improve education for all. Above all, we can build a resilient economy by investing in the future, in green jobs and with policies to ensure we live within the means defined by the Earth's physical resources. We can tackle the economic crisis. But we can't make it rain. We can't stop drought. And we can't stop the sea from rising. Now, David Cameron is fond of saying that the public respects those who are honest about the problems our country faces. Yet he has failed spectacularly to do just that on the environment. The public wants to be listened to, but it also wants leadership, and not the kind of hamster-in-a-wheel leadership on offer from Ed Miliband either. So we should be confident about our leadership role on the environment. We should take a lead when it comes to the government tearing up protection for precious landscapes so their friends, the developers, can make more money. Take a lead in exposing the shockingly cosy complicity between the government and the nuclear industry. And take a lead in opposing the government's reckless destruction of the solar industry. And our message to Cameron is this: since you clearly have neither the ability nor the political will to fulfil your own aspiration to become the greenest government ever, then get out of the way and leave it to those of us who do. Now, at our last conference, I made a pretty bold claim that with the Liberal Democrats joining the Tories and with Labour fatally contaminated by much of its own dire record in government, we, the Greens, were now the true party of opposition. A bold claim. We might have more councillors than ever before, but we only run one council. We might be gaining more members, but we're still some way behind the Lib Dems, let alone Labour. But you know, size isn't everything. Imagine we're in Liverpool back in 1962. The charts are dominated by the likes of Frank Ifield and the Tornadoes. And imagine we've stumbled upon an obscure club where a band we've never heard of, 4 local lads, is playing music that's new and fresh. And do we judge that band by how many people have managed to cram into that tiny room? Or do we say that those older, more established acts must be better because they've got more fans? You know, yes, Labour and the Tories still have the numbers on their side, the big donors, the members who stick with them, despite everything. But like those 70s supergroups, still grinding out the old familiar hits, still on the circuit, those great days are gone. You know, they're going through the motions, perhaps paying off the mortgage or topping up the pension, but the fire's gone. We offer something new, something fresh, something relevant to our times, something that our politics, our country, desperately needs. With this in our minds, we will strive to make strong gains in the local elections across the country. We're busy selecting and preparing for the Euro elections where we will increase the number of our MEPs. And we must believe in our ability to achieve these successes. Have the confidence that we're as good as the others. No, better. And that's what I want each and every one of us to take away from this great city. The message that from a room no larger than this one, you can change the world. Thank you.